Hey, what's going on there, fellow delinquents? Mischief here, and look what I finally got back. The Beretta APX A1 Compact Tactical. So Beretta was telling us that I sent it initially, and Beretta could not find an issue with it, so they just sent it back without really doing anything. And so I figured out that it was still having the same problem, so sent it back in, and they determined that the slide stop was out of spec, and they swapped it out, and the followers were out of spec. So now, apparently, it locks back now. Okie doke. Well, we're at the range. That was weird. Okay. Anyway, we're at the range. Let's go ahead and shoot some. I got 5 rounds loaded in this magazine. I wanted to compare it with the Beretta PX4, which is a gun I typically like to shoot. Main reason why is because the grip and the recoil impulse is much better. The APX, I'm not really a fan of it, me personally. But just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you're not going to like it. It has a lot of features. The only problem is, though, a lot of these features, they don't do anything for me. And I'm going to go into it later on. And after I do, I'm going to make some suggestions on some things about the Beretta APX that I think could actually improve it and give it longevity. So first thing we got to do is we got to get our cold start out of the way. Okay, cold start's out of the way. Now let's go ahead and do some accuracy testing. We got this paper about 7 yards, and we're going to shoot this one with the APX and this one with the PX4. Okay, so we're at 7 yards. We're going to go ahead and we're going to shoot at that left circle real quick and just kind of see what we do. Okay. Not a bad group. I'll take it. This pistol right here, the one thing I don't like about it is that trigger. That trigger has a very weird rolling break that feels like it gets stiffer the farther back you go. Now, why is that a big deal? It's mostly a big deal because somebody who's not used to shooting this pistol, they're more likely to pull that gun down as they're pressing that trigger. And I handed this pistol to somebody earlier today that I just met. He's never shot this gun before. He did not hit a single steel piece at 50 feet with this handgun. He just couldn't hit anything with it. And part of the reason why is just because of that trigger. And so let's go ahead and we're going to shoot the PX4, see how we do. All right, so the Beretta PX4. Try and do single action this time, just try and give me as much of an advantage as I can. Okie doke. Well, with the PX4, we've got a little bit of left and right stringing. And the main reason why is because when you're shooting iron sights, you got to focus on your sight alignments. And that it's near impossible to actually like perfectly center this front sight inside this rear sight right here. So if you start shooting fast, expect to have a little bit of left and right movement, but right there, with this trigger, I feel a lot more confident. If I put a red dot sight on this pistol, I bet you I could really tighten those groups up to the same way that the APX is. However, this is slow shooting. Let's talk a little bit about faster shooting. Now, the problem with having a trigger that's kind of stiff and creepy is that if you start shooting faster, then theoretically, you're probably going to start making more mistakes the more you go on. So we got 10 rounds in here. I'm going to do 2 5-round strings and just see what happens. We'll see how that spread opens up a little bit. Okay, not bad. So that was 5 shots. First shot was an 82. 29, 26, 28, 24. All right, let's try it again. Nice. Okay. That was felt like a little bit slower. First shot was a 90, so first shot was slightly slower because I kind of faked myself out there. 35, a 29, 25, 23. Let's go take a look at the spread real quick. So, a little bit of vertical up and down stringing, and you can see that it is to the left a little bit. And part of that reason might be that trigger. As I'm trying to press that trigger, I'm pushing it slightly to the left as it's recoiling up and down. So, that's actually not a bad group. I'll take that. We're still within the 9 ring, and we got one in the 8 ring, but everything else is in the 9 or better. Let's go ahead and see what the PX4 can do. All right, we got the PX4. Pulled one down. So 206, first shot was a 94. 34, 29, 26, 23. That's roughly about the same, actually. I'll take it. We had dropped one really low, but everything else kind of seems like it's still in the same place. Let's go ahead. All right, sped up a little bit. So we got a 196, first shot was a 93, so I did speed up my shooting a little bit faster. The 33, a 26, a 24, a 20. Okie doke. And we're all in the same group area. Let's see. So once again, we got 1, we got 2 in the 8. And then we dropped 1 way down here in the 7. So, okay. Maybe it's because I'm switching between both pistols. I have a lot more trigger time with this. So that APX recoil is not too bad. Triggers are pretty predictable, and it's coming back on target a lot more than I gave it credit for. So yeah, it's not doing too bad. The APX, I'll give it to it. Yeah. All right, now we'll see how the APX works when shooting on the move. So this one I missed 2 shots. I lost my dot. This one, Charlie Delta. So, as far as reloading is concerned, the pistol does pretty good. It's okay. The dot sits a little high, and I lost my dot for a second there. I want something a little bit lower, but maybe with some training that would definitely smooth out. Alright. So I missed one on that target. This one over here, I think I got all 5 on there. Pulling it low, shooting faster. Yeah. So the PX4, in my opinion, I really like this pistol because of how it handles. However, I don't feel like I've got enough trigger time to actually be running and shooting that fast. I'm shooting beyond my skill level, but at the same time, I'm just trying to demonstrate the pistol and its handling, and under stress, under some kind of like minor stress, it's like what kind of mistakes can you reasonably make with the pistol. So this one right here, I feel a lot more confident with it, but at the same time, it is possible to run the gun too fast to the point where you're not getting hits. Now I was showing the Beretta APX A1 and comparing it to the PX4, but I don't really think that that's a good comparison. I mean, this is a gun that I would much rather prefer. However, just because it's the gun I prefer does not mean that you should replace your APX with this. There's reasons why you might want one over the other. The APX has a lot of features. So with the Beretta APX, you got the suppressor high sights. With the threaded barrel, you got a replaceable frame chassis, and you got a red dot system straight from the factory. I would prefer a factory setup rather than having someone cut and mill the slide, because when you do that, when you cut a slide that's not designed for a red dot, there's potential for somebody to actually screw that up and give you a pistol that you now have to send back into Beretta and get some replacement parts for it, which I don't really want to do that. With the PX4, it took somebody years to finally figure out how to mill the slide properly, and even then, Beretta does not offer any kind of factory optic setup for this pistol. Another problem with the PX4 is you cannot run a suppressor. This pistol right here, the barrel rotates as the pistol recoils. So that rotation of the barrel will actually unthread the suppressor as you're trying to shoot it. So this has been tested many times. People have tried different ways that they could actually set this pistol up so it wouldn't do that, but they just have not been successful, and nobody really cares enough to make anything that would work for it that way. But for a civilian, law enforcement, competition pistol, this thing is great. I love it. I love shooting this pistol. It gives me so much more confidence, and it gives me a lot more better feel in recoil control and sighting system. I love the look. I love the feel of this pistol. It just recoils really nice. However, with the APX, the pistol that I probably should have been comparing to is the Glock 19. So if you compare these two pistols, the APX is definitely chunkier than the Glock 19. When you actually compare them size-wise, the APX is actually a little bit shorter. You can see that the APX, it actually, maybe not so much shorter, but you can definitely tell that in the nose it's a little bit shorter overall and lengthwise until you get to that threaded barrel. Then that threaded barrel kind of throws it off a little bit. So out of the box, the APX is a little bit better because it does give you more features. It gives you a removable chassis system, so if you screw up anything with the frame or if your dog ate it, then you can get a replacement. And also, they both got ambi controls. They got swappable magazine releases. The APX actually has this little cutout right here so that if you want, you can strip magazines. I don't have a magazine. Give me 1 second. So right here, if you need to strip a magazine, you can pinch it and strip that magazine out. So that right there was a feature that used to be on the Glock in the front right here. However, a lot of people were complaining that they would pinch their hand when they would slam that magazine in there. And so that's why they got rid of that cutout feature. And then people overall were like, we don't really need it. So they both have an optics ready plate. The problem is, though, is with the APX, the iron sights, you can barely see the front sight if you line up the rear sight with it, and that right there makes it almost impossible to co-witness. I need to have something lower, probably about even just like 2 millimeters, even 2 millimeters lower, and the iron sights would be usable. But as it stands right now, these iron sights are terrible. I can't co-witness them unless the iron sights were just taller by like 2 millimeters or the optic plate was shorter by 2 millimeters. So if they had something that was flush fitted, or if they were able to cut it a little bit lower, that would be perfect. However, as it stands, I do not like the iron sights with this. If you're not going to be able to co-witness the iron sights, just go with regular sights or something. I also am a little upset about the threaded barrel because the threaded barrel has to be unscrewed in order for you to be able to take the barrel out. So I have to unthread this thread protector right here in order to slide the barrel out. There's already a example of Beretta having flush fit thread protectors on their 92s, but they couldn't do this with the APX. I don't understand why. Maybe somebody there probably could explain better than I can. Now, some other things that I would probably change about this is if you're going to go with the removable chassis system, why not make it work with other Beretta magazines? Imagine if this thing could take the PX4 magazine. You would be all set. You could buy a PX4 and the APX and then run the same magazines. Now, if you don't believe me, check this out. So here's the Beretta APX mag. Here's the PX4 mag. They're identical. They look identical. The only difference is this little triangle piece right in the front. So it fits in there. Don't you dare tell me that couldn't work. I just had an idea. Yeah, the PX4 mag actually works. So don't you dare tell me that you can't make a chassis system that can't take PX4 mags. 1, the sighting system. Make the sights taller or make the optic plate shorter. Number 2, the grip module. Make the grip module accept other magazines other than the APX magazines. Magazines is what creates longevity. If you have magazine compatibility with other pistols that are also popular, you could actually make this thing go a lot longer than it normally would. That's just my opinion. Beretta 92 mags, I got a ton of those. PX4 mags, I got a ton of those. These APX mags, I also got a ton of those because the guy who sold them to me, gave me this pistol, yeah, he had a bunch of them as well. And so magazine compatibility would be great. The next thing, slide serrations. These slide serrations suck. My hand slips down them. I don't know who designed these, but my fingers slip down these slide serrations. Look at the Glock. See how they're thinner and they're much more closer together? They're grippier. That makes them much sharper and more grippier. My fingers do not slide down there. I'm holding this back with so much pressure, it's not sliding. This one right here, if I pull back, my thumb is sliding. See? So these slide serrations need to be redesigned. I believe that's pretty much it. Oh, trigger. This is about a 6-pound trigger pull. I did my trigger pull gauge on this, and it came out to consistently like 6 pounds, 12 ounces. And that's just an absurdly heavy trigger. This Glock 19 right here, the trigger pull is about 5 pounds, 10 ounces. That was consistent. I even pulled one that was under 5 pounds. So this is about a pound lighter trigger. And it's also got less trigger travel. Watch this. So right there, break. It breaks a lot more consistently. This one right here, as I'm pressing on that trigger, it feels like it gets heavier as I'm pressing it all the way until it breaks finally. So the trigger travel is not bad. On the APX, I feel like the trigger travel is perfectly fine. The reset's perfectly fine. The reset feels a little bit shorter than the Glock. However, that break is what really gets me. I just don't feel confident with this gun. The recoil is great. The recoil impulse is really nice. So, yeah, trigger, grip modules, and the sights, threaded barrel. It would be my favorite gun. It would be the perfect gun. If I was going to keep this gun, what I'd probably do is I might just chop the threads off and just run it. Maybe I'll run it with a slight extension to that barrel. And I might have to figure out something to do with the trigger press because that's just a very, very weird trigger press. And I'd also have to get used to this red dot because that red dot, I lost my red dot as I was trying to shoot it. And that's not good. So anyway, yeah. That's basically all I got for you, so make sure you stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, you didn't learn from me.
Wow.